Hello, I'm your host, and I'm joined today by two special guests. You may know them from their social media where they share all sorts of amazing things related to dinosaurs and paleontology. Be sure to check out their social media if you want to learn more. And with that, let's get to the spine. Spinosaurus, the name means spine lizard, and it's derived from the Greek word spine, which means thorn or spine, and sauros, which obviously means lizard. It's hard to imagine any other name being more fitting for this dino. The generic name was given by the paleontologist who first described the genus in 1915, drawing from the unique features of its preserved spine. But before we talk about said spine, let's start at the beginning. Where did this strange beast live, and when did it roam? The fossil record tells us that Spinosaurus lived during the mid-Cretaceous period, specifically about 95 million years ago. It was found in what is now North Africa, spanning portions of modern-day Egypt and Morocco. But the landscape and climate would have been very different than it is today. Based on the types of fossils found in the area, scientists think that it lived in a region full of rivers, lakes, and deltas, much like the Florida Everglades, an ancient version of the Everglades, if you will. Not only would have been full of freshwater fish, crocodiles, and dinosaurs, but also lush vegetation, including palm trees, ferns, and conifers. These environments are referred to as complex habitats. Why? Because they're made up of multiple ecosystems within them. There are lots of nooks and crannies for animals to hide in, whether under the water or in the trees. Speaking of animals that might have lived in these areas, what exactly did Spinosaurus look like? Well, first off, get ready for some superlatives because Spinosaurus was a big boy. Reaching lengths of 50 feet or more, it was likely one of the longest carnivorous dinosaurs that ever lived, and the adults weighed over 1 ton. To put that into perspective, it was almost twice the length of a Tyrannosaurus rex and almost 3 times the weight of a velociraptor. So how do we know what it looked like? As with all dinosaurs, we piece together their appearance based on the fossil record. But in the case of Spinosaurus, we had a bit of a problem, or rather a few problems. For example, many of its bones were so badly eroded that studying their anatomy was basically impossible. Plus, there was a fair amount of debate as to what parts of the fossil belonged to the skeleton. See, when paleontologists first started excavating dinosaur fossils in Morocco in the early 1900s, they weren't always careful about recording where certain fossils came from. So they were found jumbled together in piles, creating a bit of a puzzle. But this wasn't helped by the fact that early paleontologists couldn't agree on what Spinosaurus looked like. Some thought it was similar to a T-Rex, stomping through the underbrush, hunting large plant-eating dinosaurs. Others thought it resembled a giant crocodile, lurking in rivers and snatching up unwary swimmers. And then, in 2000, a new set of fossils was found in Morocco, leading to the most comprehensive description of the animal yet. And it turned out that Spinosaurus was a combination of both. In fact, it was the first dinosaur ever discovered that was semi-aquatic. That is, it spent significant amounts of time in the water. Here's the relevant bits of its skeleton. The skull and jaw were kind of like a crocodile's, perfectly suited for catching and eating fish. Its legs were shorter and more robust than other theropod dinosaurs, enabling it to stand up to the powerful tail of a giant fish and keep itself upright in the water. And finally, the most famous feature of all, the sail. In total, 14 of these elongated spinal bones have been found, and we can tell they were part of the same individual because no other dinosaur had that many spines along their back. It's likely that the other bones were broken apart and scattered by water and time. Also, the size of the sail varied among individuals. According to the study, it averaged about 6 feet in height and nearly 7 feet in length. The researchers who described the new fossils in 2000 suggested that the sail served a function similar to the sails of a warship. That is, it was for display. Other possible functions have included temperature regulation and attracting mates, but ultimately, we don't know for sure. One thing we do know is that Spinosaurus used its sail differently than other dinosaurs. See, in 2018, researchers released a paper comparing the muscles of theropod dinosaurs with those of modern birds. They noted that Spinosaurus had more robust rib attachments than other theropods. Theropods are a diverse group of mostly carnivorous dinosaurs that includes everything from velociraptors to T-Rex. This would have allowed the dinosaur to support and move large, heavy structures, like, say, a huge sail, without toppling over. But enough about the basics of this dino. Let's talk about its spine, specifically the spines of its back. The neural spines, or spinous process, extended laterally from the vertebrae, forming bony plates along the midline of the back. These plates were connected to each other and to the vertebrae by tough ligaments and tendons, forming a flexible yet sturdy structure. And although we don't have a complete specimen, the spines towards the middle of the back show a distinct pattern. They begin short and flat, then elongate and slant upwards and backwards, forming a triangular shape at the top of the back. This is unlike any other theropod dinosaur we know of, and it's what gives Spinosaurus its signature sail-like appearance. The spines taper towards the tips, and some have grooves along their surfaces. This groove pattern is different from the grooves on a Stegosaurus tail. They are more concentrated near the front edge and are angled more parallel to the midline of the body. This groove pattern is unknown among other theropod dinosaurs, though some small ornithischian dinosaurs, aka the hip dinosaurs, have similar grooves on their shoulder blades and arm bones. But in general, the spines of Spinosaurus are unique in all of evolutionary history. The ones closest to the hips are relatively shorter and thicker. These were likely covered in skin and acted as protective armor against bites and slashes from giant fish. This is supported by the fact that they're located directly above the dinosaur's center of mass, making it difficult for an attacker to knock the dinosaur off balance. Meanwhile, the tallest and longest spines were situated further up on the back and closer to the neck. These were less useful for protecting the body, but instead likely served a display function, creating a sort of canopy over the head. So what exactly was Spinosaurus eating? Judging by its teeth, it was a fish eater. Its teeth were conical, like a bunch of tiny cones, and great for gripping slippery prey, and its jaws operated like those of a crocodile, able to snap shut with lightning speed. Remember that crocodiles evolved from dinosaurs, so it makes sense that Spinosaurus had a similar hunting style to them. We can tell this because of the arrangement of the joints in its lower jaw. If it opened wide enough, it could catch and crush prey like a crab trap. Fossils of fish found alongside Spinosaurus skeletons suggest that it preferred to eat sawfish, creatures with flattened snouts and saw-edged teeth. It hunted these fish in the exact same way that crocodiles hunt today, by ambushing its prey and grabbing it in its powerful jaws, a prehistoric piranha, if you will. Based on its preference for fish, it's unlikely that Spinosaurus spent much time on land. It's even thought to have laid its eggs in river deltas, a behavior seen in crocodiles but not in other dinosaurs. To date, no nest or eggs have been found, but scientists hope to change that in the future. Spinosaurus disappeared around 93 million years ago, possibly due to climate change and shifts in river systems that erased its specialized niche. Sadly, the original specimens collected in Egypt were lost during World War II, so we have very little to go on. But scientists are excited to continue uncovering the mysteries of the river monster, especially since its discovery changed what we think dinosaurs were. Once considered strictly land-dwelling reptiles, we now know that at least one species was a true river monster, blurring the line between reptile and dinosaur. And maybe, just maybe, there are more surprises waiting to be discovered. And with that ends our journey into the spine of Spinosaurus. Do you think the sail was for display, heat regulation, or something else? Let me know your thoughts down below, and don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an episode. Thanks for coming along on this spine-tacular journey. I'll see you next time on Paleo Logic.